We all dream about suddenly becoming incredibly rich. Without working, without saving, just instant wealth. Imagine all your problems gone. You could buy whatever you wanted, stop working, live like a king. But history teaches a darker truth. Unexpected wealth isn't always a blessing. It can be a poison. Take 16th century Spain. They didn't just stumble upon money, they found the ultimate jackpot. With the Americas, they discovered the largest silver and gold reserves the world had ever seen. Suddenly, they were the rulers of the planet, the first empire on which the sun never set. They had the strongest armies, the biggest ships, and a direct line to God. And yet, they watched it all slowly crumble. To understand why, we need to travel to Potosí, high in the Andes Mountains of modern-day Bolivia. 1545. Spain was powerful, yes, but not invincible economically. Fresh from the Reconquista, hardened by war, deeply religious, they valued the sword more than the ledger. Then, fate intervened. A local man named Diego Gualpa stumbled while chasing a llama. He grabbed a bush for balance, and when the roots pulled away, he saw it, veins of shining silver. This was Cerro Rico, the rich hill. Not just a mine, practically a mountain made of silver. When the Spanish conquistadors arrived, they could hardly believe their eyes. This was the El Dorado they had been seeking. Potosí transformed from a barren wasteland into one of the largest cities in the world. Within decades, it had a bigger population than London or Paris. But life there was harsh. At 13,000 feet, the air was thin, and simply walking down the streets was exhausting. And getting the silver out? That was brutal. Enter the Mita system. Forced labor drafted from the indigenous population. For weeks at a time, men worked in dark, suffocating tunnels, carrying heavy ore on rickety ladders. The locals called it the mountain that eats men. But mining was only half the battle. The ore was low grade. To extract pure silver, the Spanish used the mercury amalgamation process. They crushed the rock, mixed it with toxic mercury, and trampled it with their bare feet. It was industrial-scale silver production, centuries ahead of its time. The results were staggering. From 1550 to 1800, Mexico and Peru produced 80% of the world's silver, most of it shipped to Spain. There, it was melted into bars and minted into the famous pieces of 8, the first global currency. Markets from Shanghai to Seville, Boston to Bombay accepted it. Twice a year, massive treasure fleets left Havana, carrying billions in today's money. Church bells rang across Spain. The king breathed a sigh of relief. Spain was the new superpower. Silver was flowing, miners suffering, but Spain kept getting richer. The gold and silver flooded the royal treasury, turning the economy upside down. Spain made a fatal mistake, confusing money with wealth. Money is just a medium of exchange. Wealth is what you can produce. Food, tools, ships, clothes. Merchants, artisans, farmers all slowed down because silver kept arriving. Money became a drug, giving a temporary high while the economy's vital organs shut down. The first major inflation crisis, the price revolution, sent prices soaring by 400%. Ordinary people starved while the rich got richer. Spanish goods lost competitiveness abroad. A shoemaker in Seville raised prices because leather and food were expensive, but a shoemaker in France or England could sell the same shoes for a fraction of the cost. Spanish silver flowed out to buy imported goods. Society changed. Craftsmanship was looked down upon. Nobles flaunted wealth without working. The hidalgo, the minor noble, became the ideal Spaniard. Literature of the time, from Don Quixote to local novels, depicted idle nobles polishing armor while starving. Wars compounded the problem. King Philip II constantly fought the Ottomans, the French, and suppressed the Dutch rebellion. Financing these wars depended on silver from the Americas, but mines had limits. Debt and defaults became routine. In 1557, Philip II declared Spain could not pay its creditors. Banks collapsed, credit froze. Yet gold kept coming, and the cycle became costlier and more dangerous. Borrow, spend, default, repeat. Everyday life suffered. Money lost value. The rich dealt in silver, the poor were left with worthless copper coins. By the late 16th century, Spain appeared wealthy but hollow from within. Spain's economy wasn't just idle, it ran on debt. Philip II financed massive wars and royal extravagance through high-interest loans from bankers called asientos. Every new shipment of silver paid old debts, but the spiral was endless. Disaster was inevitable. Defaults repeated in 1557, 1575, 1596, and 1647. A generational cycle of borrowing, overspending, and collapsing debt formed. Citizens suffered, nobles consumed, production stalled. Gold was just flowing outwards, creating the illusion of prosperity. Philip II saw himself as God's sword, defending Catholicism, waging war on enemies everywhere. But Spain's industry was hollow. Every ship, soldier, and battle meant more debt, not more wealth. The result? Spain, once the richest empire in the world, became a nation of starving people, collapsed industry, and wasted opportunity. Gold had not made the country prosperous, it created dependency, addiction, and decay. Meanwhile, the Dutch and English took Spanish silver and invested it wisely. They built fleets, funded scientific research, and laid the foundations for modern commerce. The lesson was clear. Wealth isn't metal, it's productivity and innovation. The story of Spain is a classic case of the resource curse. Easy money destroys incentives to work, creating an illusion of wealth while hollowing out the foundations of society. Spain drowned in gold, thinking it ruled destiny, but in reality it became a slave to its own fortune.